Let me ask you something. If I gave you something difficult to learn for tomorrow and removed the teachers completely, would you actually be okay? Like genuinely. No lectures, no step-by-step instructions, no start here. Just here's the problem, figure it out. Because a lot of people say they want independence, but I'm not sure everyone actually wants what that feels like. And no, this isn't one of those weird anti-school videos, that's not the point. Some people learn really well with structure, and that makes total sense. I'm asking something else. What happens when that structure disappears? Because I think a lot of people imagine that sounds exciting, until they're sitting there stuck, and then it feels completely different. I think most of us grew up with a pretty specific idea of learning. Someone explains something, you take notes, maybe you get it, maybe you don't. Then eventually there's a test. That's normal. So when people hear learn on your own, they usually think, oh, it's the same thing but without a teacher. But that's not really what happens. Because the hardest part isn't finding information. There's almost too much information. The hard part is knowing what to do when you're confused. That's when things get messy. Because confusion feels bad, and most of the people are used to that meaning of I'm doing something wrong. But sometimes confusion is literally just the process. And that's a different mindset. But honestly, learning alone isn't the weird part. The weird part is when you're not alone. Imagine this, you spend 3 hours trying to solve something. You finally get something working, not perfect but something. Then another student looks at it and goes, wait, why did you do it like that? That hits differently. Because if a teacher says it, fine, that's expected. But someone sitting right next to you, someone learning the same thing, that feels way more exposing. Now suddenly you have to explain your thinking, and maybe halfway through explaining it, you realize your logic makes no sense. That's uncomfortable. For some people that's motivating, for other people it sounds like actual hell, and both reactions are fair. I don't think this is about intelligence, that's what people assume, like, oh, the smart people will do just fine. Maybe, but I've seen really smart people freeze the second things get unclear, and I've seen other people who didn't look exceptional at first keep moving, trying stuff, asking questions, getting things wrong, adjusting. That seems to matter way more. Like, can you start before you fully understand? Can you ask questions without feeling stupid? Can you keep going when your first attempt was garbage? That's completely different from being smart. And this is where the independence fantasy kind of falls apart. Freedom sounds amazing until nobody manages you. People love saying they want freedom, no rigid schedule, no one telling them what to do, learn at your own pace. Sounds great until you realize what that actually means. Nobody checks if you show up, nobody notices if you procrastinate, and nobody repeats the explanation if you zoned out. And nobody says, hey, you should probably start this now. And that's when things get real. Because some people are amazing when they're self-directed, and some people discover they rely way more on external structures than they thought. And that's not criticism, that's just useful to know. This is why I find 42 interesting, because this is much closer to how their learning model works. A lot less traditional instructions, a lot more projects, peer evaluations, asking people around you, testing ideas, getting things wrong, trying again. Which sounds exciting in theory, and for some people it genuinely is. But I can also completely understand why some people would hate that. Because if you like clear directions, this can feel chaotic. If you need certainty before starting, this probably feels stressful. If you learn best by doing, different story. I think the interesting question isn't, is this better? That's too simplistic, better for who? Because different environments bring out different things. Some people do incredibly well with expert instructions and clear structure. Some people only wake up when they have to figure things out themselves. Neither is morally superior, but pretending they are the same experience doesn't make sense. So maybe the real question is, what actually works for you? Not what sounds impressive, not what feels intellectually cool. What genuinely helps you learn? Those answers can be very different. So if someone removed the teacher tomorrow, how would that actually go? Honestly, I'm curious. And if you want to see how 42 Heilbronn's model actually works in practice, links are below.